Hey everyone, it's Barbara Teckle. How are you? I hope you are well. And thanks so much for tuning in again for another message from the animal wisdom world. I love sharing the wisdom of animals and the teachings that they can provide us. If you've watched my videos before or are part of my community, whether through my blog or my newsletters, you know that I have a big love of animals, and I've learned some very key pivotal lessons from them over the many years since I've really been paying attention and living in awareness of the gifts. They have so many gifts and so many lessons to offer us. So I like to do an animal wisdom reading each month using oracle cards. And this month, for the month of April, I wanted to work with the question of how do we best work with our shadow parts. I've had the opportunity of working with the wisdom of snake and the wisdom of spider, two animals which many of us tend to often fear, and they help me to bring up parts of myself that were hard to deal with. But when I was able to take a look at them and understand the teachings from snake and spider, I was able to work with some things that had caused me emotional pain in my life, and to work with them, to see them as a gift, and to integrate them into my life. So that is the reason for wanting to ask this question today for the month of April, and to see what animal may show up to help us with this important, very, very important work in order for us to really be more comfortable with who we truly, truly are. So again, how do we best work with our shadow parts? And I worked with the Spirit Animal deck, which is the one I most often am working with right now. And the animal that I pulled is Wombat Spirit. And the message on the bottom is be at home. So in order that we can start to feel more at home with who we truly are and to feel comfortable in our own skin, and when we're looking at the question of how do we best work with our shadow parts, it's really about learning from those shadow aspects of ourselves and being willing to look at why do we have these emotions that we often define as, negative emotions, such as anger, rage, shame, guilt, envy, just to name a few. So when I looked at Wombat Spirit, and I'm looking at the wombat, immediately I saw how the wombat's eyes were glowing, like he was looking into the dark. And wombats are nocturnal, so they do their foraging and their digging for food at night to nourish themselves. And so I see wombat as encouraging us in order to nourish our soul and our whole being. And when we're looking at the shadow aspects of ourselves, wombat is encouraging us to look into those shadow parts. And the shadow is often, seen as the dark parts of ourselves. Now, another thing that I learned about wombat as after I pulled this card, I didn't know a lot about the wombat, so I wanted to understand a little bit more about this animal and, how he moves and lives within the world. And this was such an interesting thing for me personally to learn, is that the wombat is the largest burrowing creature on the earth. And I found that interesting because I have a love, my favorite breed of animal is the dachshund. Again, if you've been part of my community, you know the dachshund is huge in my life. I've learned some pretty pivotal teachings from them. I now have my third dachshund, Gidget, who probably has brought me the biggest teaching to date, and that was working with the shadow aspects of myself. So to learn this about wombat, that they are the largest burrowing creature, And how does that apply to working with our shadow parts? So I see the wombat as encouraging us to dig deeper and to go into our psyche and to look at those shadow parts, to look at those emotions. You know, maybe for you it might be anger, it could be rage, it could be selfishness, it could be envy. And you've probably experienced all of those things at some point in your life. We all have, right? So why are we having those emotions? Instead of pushing them away, it's about looking at the why. Why am I experiencing anger right now? Why am I experiencing rage? What is it I need to know about that? What can I understand about that? So when we can see our emotions that we have buried or burrowed within us, and to really start to work with them and the why of why we're experiencing them, we're able to bring that up into the light, right? We're able to bring those up into and to look at them. And once we can look at them, you know, we find the courage to look at them and to really start understanding the why to them, we can integrate them into who we are. I mean, they're part of us. We can't just get rid of them. They're part of us. And that's what makes us a whole being. And that is what contributes to what we are and who we are. So when we can see our shadow parts as a gift to understanding ourselves better, that's what the shadow is all about. And, you know, those things that we define as negative or painful really were part, I believe, and it's been my experience, and it wasn't an easy road to get to this point of, you know, working with my own emotional pain that I kept buried and, you know, burrowed deep down inside of me. It's what made me who I am. And once I could see that as a gift, that the negative, along with the good parts of myself, is all part of who I am. I don't believe I'd be who I am if it wasn't for some of the emotional pain that I've personally experienced in my life. And so I really believe that Wombat, this is the message from Wombat, in order to be at home with who we truly are, and when we're looking at the shadow, is to really understand it as a gift, and that it helped us to shape who we are. So I pulled another card just to see if there was any more information we needed to learn as we start to work with our shadow aspects of ourselves. And this time I pulled from the Wisdom of the Oracle. And the card that I pulled is Exchanging Gifts. And again, when we're looking at the shadow aspects of ourselves, what additional information do we need to know? I really love the symbolism of this woman coming out of the box. And she is, I don't know if you can see that, she is wearing a mask, but she's beginning as she looks at we wear these masks to protect ourselves, so we don't incur more pain. That's why we wear all the different masks that we wear. But here she is, she's still got her mask on, but she's starting to come out of the box, come out of the shadow. And, and little by little, we start to peel away the layers of ourselves. We start to take off these masks that are there for good reason, and they're trying to protect our hearts. But when we start to take that mask off and look at the why, it doesn't have this, then that shadow part of us doesn't have this grip on us and stops us really from living the full, meaningful, joyful lives that we can live. So again, it's all about, when we embrace the shadow aspects of ourselves, we dig deep into our hearts and listen to the answers in our heart, and we see the shadow as a gift. We're then given more gifts in our life, and we begin to experience ourselves in a whole way, and we feel more in alignment with who we truly, truly are. So I hope you enjoyed that message this month from Wombat. I know I did. I really enjoyed working with this reading this month, so I hope you enjoyed this as well. So Thanks again so much for listening and for being here. And if you have any comments, let me know. I love hearing from you. And I will see you again in May with another message from the animal kingdom. Thanks so much. Bye for now.